When we think of wormholes, we're generally thinking of them as shortcuts through spacetime. They might be able to get us from one part of our universe to another very quickly, or even backwards in time. But what if they did more than that? What if wormholes weren't just interdimensional portals, but inter-universe ones? And by traveling through a wormhole, you don't just get somewhere else in our universe, you end up somewhere else entirely. It sounds like a sci-fi trope, but theoretical physicist Paul Steinhardt has proposed that wormholes could connect different universes within the multiverse. This idea could potentially explain some pretty strange stuff we've seen in the cosmos, like dark flow and the seeming alignments of galaxies and galaxy clusters. It would also mean that the multiverse is much more accessible than we thought. So let's take a look at the idea that wormholes can connect multiple universes. To understand how wormholes might connect multiple universes, it helps to know how they work. As we understand it, wormholes are basically tunnels through spacetime. They have two ends, and anything that passes through one end comes out the other. We're talking about things like light, matter, and even time itself. Now, given that we haven't found any evidence of wormholes in the universe, we have to rely on theoretical models to figure out how they might function. One model suggests that a wormhole is formed by taking to black holes, bringing them close together, and then separating them along a single sheet of spacetime. The theory goes that if you were to keep increasing the separation distance between the two black holes, eventually the fabric of spacetime would tear, and you would end up with a wormhole connecting the two. If this is true, then anything that passed through one end of the wormhole would exit out the other, and everything would appear normal. But the two black holes at the heart of the wormhole would cause some strange effects in their immediate vicinity. Gravity would be distorted and light would bend around them. And this distortion would affect objects around the wormhole, causing them to move towards the center of the structure. Paul Stein and his colleagues used this model to propose something incredible. They suggested that there may actually be a whole network of wormholes connected to each other in a kind of web. Because of the way wormholes affect nearby objects, matter and energy could easily be drawn towards the center of the wormhole, pulled through, and then spit out into the next one. If the density was high enough, this could form a sort of wormhole highway connecting our universe to others. This idea has some potential benefits. For example, astrophysicists have noticed that galaxy clusters seem to align with each other when viewed from Earth. At first glance, this seems a bit odd. Since galaxies are all moving in random directions, you'd expect them to be jumbled up and pointless when viewed from far away. But they don't seem to be. In fact, galaxy clusters tend to lie along great circles on the sky, which means that they seem to align with each other. We don't really have an explanation for this alignment, but it could be that wormholes are somehow causing it. Stein and his team have put forward the hypothesis that our universe is only one of many, and that all of these multiverse universes are interconnected by a huge network of wormholes. They suggest that the alignment we see in the universe could be explained if all of these wormholes were created in a similar way, perhaps from the collapse of a larger structure. So an even expansion is pretty weird and could hint at something going on outside of our universe. This could possibly be explained by those inter-universe wormholes. The idea is that the wormholes are creating some sort of drag on the universe, slowing it down in some regions and speeding it up in others. Now, this is still a bit of a stretch. We lines need a lot more evidence for both dark flow and the alignment of galaxies before we can say that wormholes are responsible. But the idea of wormholes connecting multiple universes is more than just an attempt to explain a few odd observations. It could change the way we think about the multiverse. As we mentioned earlier, a wormhole is a tunnel through spacetime. That means that anything that enters a wormhole exits out the other end in the same state that it entered. A ball thrown into a wormhole would come out the other side with the same speed and trajectory. Time would also pass the same amount at both ends. If you were to go through a wormhole, you wouldn't know anything had happened. Time would pass normally, and nothing would seem out of place. But if the wormhole connected you to another universe, then that other universe would be slightly different to ours. By traveling through the wormhole, you'd have changed it in some small way. Even so, any change you made would probably be too small for you to notice. That's why wormholes are sometimes called frozen or stuck wormholes. A good example of this is the famous double cone thought experiment. Imagine a double cone made of some sort of super dense material like neutron star matter. If you drop this double cone into a wormhole, it would emerge from the other side exactly as it entered. That doesn't sound particularly interesting until you realize that the universe inside the cone is completely separate from the rest of the universe. Anything inside the cone is shielded from everything outside by its incredibly dense walls. So if you put a double cone into a wormhole that connected to different universes, the interior of the cone would be the only thing that remained unchanged. This means that anything that passed through the wormhole with the double cone would be in a universe that was slightly different to the one they left behind. If you went through the wormhole with the double cone, you'd effectively become the only constant in a changing multiverse. So the idea that wormholes connect multiple universes might not just be a way to explain some weird features of our universe. It could also make the multiverse much more accessible. Well, there's no evidence that wormholes exist at all, let alone that they connect to other universes. There are plenty of scientists who are skeptical of the idea, but it's far from impossible. If wormholes do exist, then it's possible that they could be the key to understanding the multiverse. We may find that our universe is just one of many, all connected by a vast network of interdimensional portals. But until we have more evidence to go on, we'll never know for sure. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to learn more about wormholes, check out the I Show Space video on the top 5 most mind-bending wormhole facts. All the links for this are in the description.